Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for a brand new Film Fanatic show. It is 11:05 post Thanksgiving. Hope everyone had a good turkey day. I'm still full. Uh, it was a great day, nice and chill. Watched a bunch of movies. Kind of ran out of time. I wasn't able to finish all the movies because they're due back today, back to Opera House Video. But still got to see some movies, ate a ton of food, just kind of chilled out, drank some beer, so it was really relaxing. And I am super excited, super excited because a buddy of mine just got in touch with me a little bit ago about going to see the new, fully released. It's coming out. I think it's the opening night is tonight, but the whole bloody affair. It is the complete. It's both movies from Quentin Tarantino, Kill Bill 1 and Kill Bill 2. And I'm kind of beyond excited to see it. We're going to go tonight to uh, the theater in Waterville. So, yeah, it's going to be 4.5 hours. I'm, I'm super pumped. I guess there's a bunch of new footage in these in the movie, both movies. I don't know all that much about it, but my God, I'm so excited. So yeah, and but aside from that, I have a couple of new videos coming up. They're on the longer side of things. I did my first on Wednesday. I did my first Film Fanatic vlog. I'm pretty new to the whole kind of vlog thing, and it's the first time I've ever done it. Super fun. So it's about 40 minutes or so, and I did a video basically because I did a radio interview on Wednesday on WRFR. So I recorded a video of me basically going there for what it's worth, and I recorded myself talking about various things on the way to Rockland to do the show. And then I also recorded the video. I have a video coming also of my interview with Peter Patton on WRFR, and that was an hour long. So there's some cool videos I think coming. The vlog thing is a new thing. I just kind of recently got into it. I've been watching this new channel that I just discovered, Video Dave, and he does these really great, in-depth kind of reviews of films. He's got an amazing movie collection, especially when it comes to like his Criterion collection. It's pretty awesome. But he does these vlogs where it's just like him and his wife and talking about everyday things. It's obviously very tied to movies and their watching habits, but really cool. And I found some of these videos really interesting. So I was like, okay, why don't I just you know, try it out. So I decided to take a crack at it, and I think it was okay. It was pretty fun, and it's a totally different kind of format because it's way more loose. You can kind of it's very informal, obviously the whole vlog thing, and you can kind of talk about a lot of different topics. Obviously, I spent a lot of time talking about movies and music and stuff in the video, so yeah, it could be kind of a cool thing. Yeah, let me know what you think when I have it up. I think it might be uploaded by today, so we'll see. So today's show, I rented a bunch of movies at Opera House Video. And unfortunately, or whatnot, I haven't wasn't able to fully finish them. But the one movie that I didn't get to, I will probably have to rent at a later date just because I ran out of time. I crammed in about 3 movies yesterday, and and then I kind of cashed out. So I watched today's show is going to be on the final installment for the Mission Impossible franchise. Dead Reckoning or Final Reckoning Part 2. That's going to be today's show. I also rented The Life of Chuck, which I did not get a chance to see. And then I watched F1 the movie with Brad Pitt. I did watch all of that. And then I watched pretty much all of the new Naked Gun film with Liam Liam Nielsen, which I was really, and also Pamela Anderson, which I was really actually really excited to see. So I'll the next few videos or so will be about those movies. I got all of these movies at Opera House Video. Life of Chuck, I will have to rent at a later date. I rented them out on Tuesday. I rented the movies on Tuesday because that's the new release date. But I didn't get a chance to start watching the movies until yesterday, so I was kind of cramming to get in as many as I could. And plus, which I knew it would be, but the final Mission Impossible movie was close to 3 hours long, so it took a while, and that took up a lot of time, obviously. And F1 was actually very long, so it was about 5 or 6 hours of movies right there, just with two movies. So my folks were cashed, and I understood. We were done with F1 by about 12, quarter after 12, 12:30 last night, and they were cashed out, tapped out. And then I came home, made a little bit of tea, and tried to finish out with what I could. And I got to just about to the end of, or close to the end of the new Naked Gun movie. So I did what I could. They're due back today, so and I'm going to return these movies on the way up to Waterville. So very very excited about going to see the new Kill Bill. Um, it's entitled the whole damn, or I think it's called The Whole Bloody Affair, or The Whole Damn Bloody Affair, and it's both movies back to back. There's like, from what I've read, there's some new whole new sequences in the movie. There's this whole, I guess, animated sequence that is all about Oren Shi, played by Lucy Liu in this film, and there's a bunch of other things as well. Amazing. I'm super excited. So, and there'll definitely be a big show about that. And that's going to be about 4 or 5 hours. We're going to go to the 6 o'clock show, so I'll be getting home pretty late. But I'm stoked. I'm totally stoked. I had read about Quentin Tarantino releasing this about 4 or 5 months ago, and I heard it was going to come out in December, around Christmas time. But I didn't know it was coming out right now, and I didn't know it was playing right here in town, or not right here in town, but in Waterville, which is an hour away. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm super excited. But anyway, today's show is going to be about the final installment for the Mission Impossible franchise, starring, of course, Tom Cruise, Simon Pegg, and Ving Rhames. So I I really love this movie. I thought it was really great. I thought it really had a really good sense of closure to the whole series. It's a massive, massive franchise, and I honestly have to say I've always been a really big fan of this franchise, the Mission Impossible films. So, you know, I thought it was a really good payoff. It's a little bit like on the slower side of things. The first and second act, but there's this sense of, I don't know, like I still, even though it's a little bit kind of slow, I guess, slow moving in the first act and second act, I got this sense that, this feeling that you were like, what's the best way I can describe it? Like you were pulling back like a rubber band or like a slingshot, but the tension was slowly throughout the film was building, like you were pulling further, slowly pulling back on this rubber band to where it was going to almost snap and then it was going to explode. Like that was the sense that I got. It was all building to something that was going to probably be mind blowing. And I have to say, some of the action sequences in this film, one in particular, that is kind of this huge like set piece, is absolutely jaw dropping. I've never seen anything like it. There's a couple of sequences in this film that are just kind of jaw dropping. And of course, Tom Cruise, as probably most people know, throughout all of these films, throughout all the Mission Impossible films, has he's he's insane. He's completely insane. He does all of his own stunt work from top to bottom. He produces all of these films. He puts all his blood, sweat, and tears into all of these movies. And with this final film, I mean, he really, I feel like they really raised everything to this new level. Um, and this was an interesting conclusion to the whole series because the final reckoning, both of these movies, I think there was a year or two in between. I think they were both films were shot together, and I thought the first chapter or first part of these two films was absolutely incredible. And I was like, how are they? Where is this going to go? How are they going to top it? Are they going to try to top it? Are they going to just go into a completely different direction? And in some ways, they do go in a very different direction. But yet, when it comes to the spectacle, they do top it, which is I don't know how they do it. But if you're a fan of this franchise, it's a pretty fantastic conclusion. I heard a lot of people kind of criticize this movie, saying that the story was like very convoluted and that there was too many kind of narratives, trying to tie together too many uh, kind of loose points in the story and in the script. You know, I didn't really get that. I thought it was still story wise, and considering that this film franchise has been going on for so many years, I thought, considering kind of the complex way of how are you gonna send this whole thing off, I thought they did a pretty good job with the story. I thought it was pretty good. And again, there's always with these films, there's always this like heightened reality. So there are lots of things that throughout the film, and also in any of these films in the franchise, that obviously are not really grounded in reality. There's a heightened reality to everything. So you know it is, you have to kind of suspend your feeling of belief or disbelief, because obviously it's set in this kind of alternate universe. So logically, these things might not happen. But I still think that these films are relatively grounded. But considering, and the other thing I thought about with watching this movie was that I felt like it was a good love, like a love letter to all of the films, to all of the characters we've seen in all of the Mission Impossible films, and it was a good kind of bookends to everything. And I felt like it dealt with all of the different storylines, plot lines. You got this. I got the sense that it kind of all made sense to where this whole thing was going. From its very beginning to where it concluded. I thought they did a pretty good job with that conclusion and kind of bringing it all to the table, so to speak. Because that's insanely ambitious when you think about it. Trying to tie all of these ideas more or less together, and all of these characters and the heroes, the villains, the circumstances that have happened. The other thing that's really great with this film is it feels like that one of the strengths of the one I think one of the biggest strengths of all of these movies is that there's always been this sense of urgency, or that the stakes are really really high. So there's always a level of of intensity, and to a degree, each film kind of raises that level of urgency or giving you this feeling that the stakes are getting higher and higher. And I thought with this film, they really kind of pushed that feeling and that sensation that legitimately everything and everyone is at risk, and that there was this real, true element of danger. So I thought they did a pretty good job with that. It's a little bit slow. It did take a little bit to get into this film. I would say, compared to other films in the franchise, this has a little bit more of a slower start. But ultimately, it is so the pacing is a little bit different. But I wouldn't say it took me out of the movie. But I did feel that when you got to kind of the tail end of the second act or the third act, this movie's pretty long, and I knew it would be long. It's close. I think it's just about 3 hours. I knew because this film was going to be the finale that this was going to be probably long. Most Mission Impossible films are almost 3 hours long, but I had a sense that this one was going to be longer because of, you know, all of the things it was going to be dealing with. And it did slightly drag a little bit, but then I felt once the action and set pieces were introduced, it was like all guns blazing. I felt like suddenly it was kind of the ultimate payoff. And once those things happened, and once you were kind of thrust into this, this area of the story, I felt totally invested. I was like in it to win it. That was one criticism where I have, reading reviews. I almost saw this movie in the theater, but I didn't. But I did hear criticisms of this movie saying that this movie was, because of the nature of this film being the final movie in the entire franchise, that they were, trying to tie all of these things together that have been established or talked about, or all these other, storylines in all these other films, that it became a little bit convoluted and a little bit too far fetched or ridiculous. I didn't really get that. And then I did hear that people, did complain that this film was a little bit too slow, and maybe it is. Maybe it is a little slow. But I will say, if you stick with it, it's a super payoff. So I can understand that criticism, but I thought it was good. Maybe ultimately it was better to go in that direction, to kind of like maybe mess a little bit with your expectations, but to where the story builds and to where it goes and to where you are thrust into these uh, miraculous action and set pieces that are just so incredible. It's I think ultimately it was pretty worth it, and it does. Again, like I said, that slingshot rubber band thing, or like, even if you're like, taking a balloon and you're putting in as much air in it as possible over a slow period of time, to where it feels like it's going to pop at any second. That's kind of how I felt like what this movie was maybe doing or trying to say, as far as building up the tension and trying to connect all of these dots to, and it doesn't do it too much, but there are points where it does reference the other movies, but it doesn't stay um, too much on that track to where it gets like a little bit redundant, or to the point of where it takes you out of the movie. I didn't think it quite did that. I will say it's a little slow, but ultimately stayed with it, and I was in it to win it. I really was. I was really impressed with some of these action sequences. There's one action sequence in particular in this film where I think it's one of the greatest things that's probably have ever, as far as action and stunts, it's probably one of the greatest things ever captured on film. Um, you know, Tom Cruise is certifiably insane, legitimately. Like, because he does all of his own stunt works, and it's insane what he does to make to to the degree that he'll go to entertain us. Like, it's kind of insane. It would be really cool to have seen this on Blu-ray. I I own a few of the Mission Impossible films. I think I only own there's like two I think there's like two or three of the Mission Impossible movies that I own on Blu-ray. And then I have a couple on DVD. But I think I've always been a big fan of these films, and I think it would be a really awesome investment to eventually buy all of the films on Blu-ray, especially with this one. I had seen, I had heard that this movie was playing when it came out, and it came out this past summer. It was playing at the IMAX theater in Saco, Maine, which is kind of a hike to go to the movies. It's like a little over 2 hours. But there's an amazing. It's the only IMAX theater in the state. Saco is a little bit past Portland, Maine, so it's a hike. I had I remember when it came out, when this film had come out. I think it was in July. I was tempted to go to go see it there, but I didn't. But it would have been holy shit, like jaw dropping. So, but I would love to see this film on Blu-ray. The it's pretty good on DVD, but it doesn't do it justice. I don't think. Because of the spectacle and the kind of the cinematography it's pure electric. So very very cool though. I overall again I think some of the criticisms of this film I think are somewhat correct. I do think it's a little bit slow, and it gets a little bit. There's a point where there's a lot of kind of downtime, and you kind of feel like, okay, is this starting to drag? Is this starting to kind of go around in circles a little bit? And then it just builds from there, and then you're thrust into the action. And but overall, I don't think, because of the pacing, I don't think at any point I was taken out of the movie. I thought it was actually really effective that it was kind of slow, because it is this very. It definitely feels like with the narrative of this story, and kind of considering the complex nature, the really complex nature of trying to make this, like, this is the final installment of this massive franchise. I thought it was kind of a cool idea to do that, because it really um, pulled you in. And once it pulled you in, and again for me, that's what happened. I was, I got lost into the movie, totally pulled into it. So, yeah, I recommend it. Really, really, I really want to see this on Blu-ray or 4K. It would be super awesome. I would see it in the theater. So, yeah, I would. Out of the movies I've got and that I saw, because I did get to see most of the other films that I rented, this I would have to say was definitely the best one. So, yeah, I would definitely give this new final installment Mission Impossible film a thumbs up, if you will. So, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Peace.